right, well, it is 5:32, so why don't we go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. All right. First item on the agenda then is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at those minutes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, I'd like to motion to approve the minutes from the May 3rd, 2022. Approval of minutes from May 3rd, 2022. It's redundant, but.
All right, can I have a second?
Seconded by Ari.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Any opposed? All right, motion passes to approve minutes of the last meeting. Do we have any public appearances for non-agenda items?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. Sounds good. We can move on to the agenda review. Everyone get a chance to take a look at the agenda. Any changes or any additions? All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where it says 5C, update on current HNI projects, are we going to hear about the statuses of each grant recipient? Like, I don't know where to see the details of what is included in 5C and what is not.
Brad, can you answer that question?
Yeah, we were not planning on going through the status of each grant recipient, but we were planning on giving a general update on the grant program. I think that's maybe something we could do at a future meeting if we want to, so.
Okay, did that answer your question?
Sure did, thank you.
Okay. All right, we don't need a motion to pass the agenda review, right? We just move on?
No, you do not.
Okay, sounds good. All righty, so let's go to the agenda items. Okay, first item on the agenda is we need to select a chair. So I will entertain any nominations for a committee chairperson. And just FYI, I was chair of the committee from 2018 until 2021, and I decided to step down. So I, because of my position as a social worker in the community, I will decline any nomination to be chair. Just FYI.
Well, with all that said, I will nominate Ryan Hilsman, if I pronounce that correctly. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
You did.
I think I'm looking for a second.
I will second.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Any?
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, any other nominations? Otherwise, I'll ask for a vote to approve Ryan as chair. All right. Can I have all in favor of Ryan as chair of the committee? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Ryan, I think you take it from here.
To be honest, I've never chaired a committee before, so I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's all right.
Pretty easy. We're a pretty easy-going committee.
Yeah.
Also, I brought nothing with me but a notepad, so
Just simply go through each of the action items, and we'll move from there. We'll make it pretty simple and informal.
oh, okay.
We'll let you know if we need to vote on things or approve things. That's kind of how I started too.
Oh, okay.
You have a little experience here from myself and from Ryan online, so we'll make sure we point you in the right direction.
All right, so you can go ahead and introduce the next agenda item, Ryan.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a review of the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative Plan. All right.
Yeah. So I put this item on the agenda because we have we haven't met, this committee hasn't met in a while. I guess first I should probably introduce myself. I am Brad Sipple. I am the community development planner. So for everyone that was on this committee prior with Wade Thompson as the staff person, I took his position. So nice to meet everyone.
Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. So I put this item on the agenda because this plan was completed in March of 2019. We have a few new committee members as well as an entirely new planning department. So I thought it might be good to provide an opportunity to discuss the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative Plan, bring new members up to speed on it, and if there's any questions about it or anything like that, we can open a discussion. Otherwise, if there isn't anything that anybody has right out the gate, I plan to just talk a little bit about the pillars that were identified in the plan and some of the action steps, and then we can go from there in the discussion if that works for everyone. Sounds good. Okay. And actually, you know what? Just 1 minute. I think I might share my screen here, if possible, so I can show the plan up on the screen and we can kind of follow along there. Can everyone see a PDF of the plan up on the screen? Okay. Okay, so to start with, I'll give a little bit of background on the plan from what I know. This plan, let me zoom out a little bit. So this plan was adopted in 2019, so just about a year before the COVID-19 pandemic started. It covers three what are determined or called priority neighborhoods in Fitchburg, and I'll show a map in a little bit of those neighborhoods. And the plan was kind of like a short to midterm strategy document for I guess bringing those neighborhoods, bringing improvements to those neighborhoods and establish this entire framework of what a healthy neighborhood is, and to determine that these priority neighborhoods could see the investment to bring them up to be healthy neighborhoods. So the summary of this is that these three neighborhoods were the three that were identified during that planning process. That's the Verona Road West neighborhood, west of Verona Road. The Belmar Renaissance on the Park neighborhood, kind of on the north edge of Fitchburg, with kind of split by this little finger of the city of Madison here, and then the North Fish Hatchery Road neighborhood. We have had a new neighborhood, a new priority neighborhood come into the city of Fitchburg as of 2 days ago, I believe, when the town of Madison dissolved and was absorbed into the city of Madison and the city of Fitchburg. The Southdale neighborhood over by just west of Rimrock Road is also, that is now also in the city of Fitchburg. So that's another one that's not shown here, but would be included in this H&I plan. So that is some of the rough background of it.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
As far as the Southdale, is there a formal process that has to be exactly go before council to be brought into the plan, or is that just something that this body adopts, or you make that decision? What is that process? I'm just curious. Do you know offhand? If you don't know at this point, that's fine.
No, that's a good question. I thought I remembered some discussion about it in this plan document, Maybe after this meeting, I'll have to go back and see if I can find that.
Yeah, I just want to, curious about the process and just to make sure we follow those guidelines so that we don't get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's a good
important that we
point.
bring it in, but I'm just curious. Mhm.
Yeah. I'll check into that after the meeting and come back at the next meeting with hopefully an answer on that.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Okay. So that background brings me to these 6 pillars that were identified in this planning process when this plan was adopted. And those 6 pillars are education, life skills, care, mobility, healthy lifestyles, and healthy landscapes. And the plan kind of centers around these pillars of what they are the pillars of a healthy neighborhood. And I think this plan is kind of setting a strategy to improve those 6 pillars in the priority neighborhoods. So there are indicators in the back of this plan, which I don't plan on talking through all of those at this meeting, but if we want to talk about any of them specifically, we can do that. But the indicators in kind of the back of this plan all point to those, all are housed under those 6 pillars, and then there are a few actions that were developed during this plan as well that are kind of categorized into, I think, what appears to be three categories of actions: promotion of the H&I program, people, and places. And I am just going to scroll to those actions that were developed. So under the promotion, there were 5 actions developed here, and these actions are concrete steps that we can kind of look at as we. I'm just realizing it doesn't show up well on that screen. So these actions are concrete steps that we can kind of check off or see our progress as we go. And so prior to this meeting, I started looking at that. I have more question marks than answers on the progress of this, but I think that's a potential topic for a future meeting to check in on the progress of these actions. I know there are several that we have completed and a few that are in progress, and then several that I still have questions on. But that's kind of a really rough overview of the plan, and I guess I do want to back up and mention that this plan also had I think it was a 5-year planning horizon. Let me just scroll back up to the top here. I believe it was 2019 through 2023 was the expected timeline for this the first phase of the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative here, building community. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now and turn it over to, if anybody has any questions or things you think we should discuss on here, feel free.
I have a question for you, Brad. So, I guess for you, Brad. So after 2023, then, does it go back to and maybe some of the council members can speak to this, but does it go back to the council then to possibly renew these funds? Is that how that works?
That's a good question. I'm not really clear on what the next steps would be after 2023 here. This plan seems to be set up as like a phase 1 of something. So I think that is something that as 2023 approaches pretty quickly here, I think it's something that this committee should probably discuss and something that I think I need to look a little more closely in the plan too to see if there's anything that is any next steps that were identified. I don't remember seeing any when I went through it the first time, but there could be, and I know that this was part of I think this plan was part of a pilot program, and there may be future steps within that program, and I'm not too familiar with that program yet. So
Brad, this is Jay Allen. Sorry, I'm getting here a little bit late, but to answer that previous question, I think what the council ultimately, I think there's going to be continued grant funding that we'll be looking for to continue to fund this program. But I think what the council is going to want to see is they're going to want to know what programs were funded through our grants and what the effects were in the neighborhood. So at some point, we're going to have to develop some kind of metric that we can present to the council to tell them, hey, this is why this is important, and this should be funded as an actual part of the budget.
Yeah, and we do have metrics relating to the HNI grant program that was one of the action steps in this plan. So those metrics might be part of phase 2 of this is kind of evaluating the HNI grant program and the other action steps that were identified in this plan.
I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this, but I am curious about a lot of these pilot programs that were recommended in this initial plan, their statuses, and then maybe more specifically, this would be a question that's more answerable, would be on page 41 where it says places. Bullet 3 says develop a pilot priority neighborhood streetscape and public lighting plan in one priority neighborhood. What is a priority neighborhood streetscape and public lighting plan? Is it the example picture down below?
Yeah, so the pilot program, the pilot programs that you mentioned I think there's some under people. Those are some of the ones that I have questions about. So I'm not sure if any of those have been developed or not, but I haven't heard about them. So I'm thinking, no, that's something that I need to follow up on. And on these shown here under the places that develop a pilot priority neighborhood streetscape and public lighting plan, this bottom image, I think, goes a bit further than a streetscape and public lighting. So that item specifically, I believe this is, this picture is more referencing and updating this number 5 here, updating the North Fish Hatchery Road opportunity analysis or develop a North Fish Hatchery Road corridor redevelopment plan, because there's a lot of elements coming from here to here that would be beyond the streetscape, redevelopment. So I think that's what that image is tied to is number 5 there. But a streetscape and public lighting plan, this is another one that I don't think has been done. I haven't seen anything about it, but that would be taking a street, especially if it's a street that has speeding issues or traffic cut-through issues or something like that, and developing a plan, whether it's traffic calming or improving street lighting or all of the above on that street or on that corridor. That would be what I interpret that item as is doing something like that. So picking a problem area and developing a streetscape, traffic calming, street lighting plan for it.
And then what would be the budget for any items that are outstanding? So I'm aware of City of Fitchburg providing this committee with $50,000 a year for the grants program specifically, but then this document talks about other tasks.
And if anybody else knows more about this than I do, feel free to jump in, but my belief would be that any additional, I don't know if there's additional funding. So if there was another project that we wanted to implement, we would likely have to ask for funding to do that in the budget.
I can speak a little bit to it. I don't know. I'm not aware. I've been with this committee since the implementation and kind of development. of this, and I don't know of any extra funds. We've only had access to the 50,000. And then whenever there was any funding that was left over, sometimes the council would roll it over into the next year, and then we'd have access to those extra funds on top of the 50. But other than that, I don't know of any. I don't think there were any extra funds that we were able to access.
Ryan, I have a question for you. Do you know if any of those extra funds from the grant program were used for any of the like the hub feasibility study or any of those, or were those separate funds that you know of?
Oh man, I'm thinking back. I don't want to guess off record or on record.
That's okay. I
cannot remember,
curious, so.
to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, I can jump in here a little bit. The hub funds have generally been separate through CIP, and then also through the park impact fees, and then the line item for the grant funds are separate line item.
And my understanding is that all of those rollover funds have been used by the grant. So like this grant period, we granted more than just this year's 50,000. We granted $94,000 or something like that, because that included all the rollover from the previous year. So my understanding is that money has been accounted for and is not available for future pilot programs or other initiatives.
Yes, you are correct. And I think what's happened in the past, if the committee had awarded some funds, but the agency or the grantee never followed through with doing the actual work for the grant, then the grant funds aren't dispersed. And then that's when those funds get rolled over at that end of the year period. So yes, you all did like 95,000 last year because of those rollover dollars.
Tiana, this is Randy. How is it determined if the individuals, or I should say the organizations that receive the dollars, how is it determined if they've met, I'll say, the metrics or of...
Sure.
Yeah. Do you know that process?
Yeah, a little bit. I have to qualify myself, Randy, because this is my first time through, but...
Mine as well, so that we're both in the same boat there, yeah.
So next week, well, actually, I'll step back. Brad and I did a mid-year check-in with the awardees, all of them but two. We have been able to connect with just to follow up and make sure things are going as expected, see if they needed any assistance. So far, everything looks really good. So then we'll send out a package of information to each of the awardees so that they can collect the proper receipts and information that we need for our financial department to say, this is what the funds were dispersed on, date, how, who, because we want to make sure that the funds were dispersed in one of Fitchburg's H&I neighborhood. Brad and I will review all of that information and make sure the money was spent properly. And then if everything looks good, early next year, those funds are dispersed to the agencies. So the agencies have to have all the work done and all the receipts done before the city actually cuts the check.
So the money isn't dispersed beforehand; it's after.
That is correct, Randy.
Okay, it sounds like you sounds like you have a good plan there. So it's cared for. So
I don't know it's mine, but
well, I mean you're on top of it for your first time through this. So thank you.
If I could jump in to provide an example, one of them I believe was during COVID, when COVID first started, and an agency wasn't able to follow through with what they had proposed because of the pandemic, and so those funds didn't get used, and we were able to roll those over. So something similar to that.
if we don't have any more questions or anything else we want to discuss on this, I guess if anyone hasn't had a chance to page through this, it would probably be a good idea. But we can move on to the next item if there's nothing else.
Could I ask Brad, in a future meeting, I think I'd like to discuss possibly going back to council and look and talking about whether or not these, this committee and these funds can be continued after 2023. Maybe looking at the results of the previous disbursement of money of funds and how those went, and looking at what's been accomplished, and possibly using that to take back to council and ask for additional funding. So if that could be on an agenda for a future meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I can make a point there. Jay, you may want to step in as well from your experience, but I think council would expect a readout at some point as to
I think if if I were not on this committee and I was just on the council, what I would want to see is a list of all the projects that have been funded, how many people attended or how many people were affected, and what some kind of narrative explaining what the project was and how it helped people in those neighborhoods. There's going to be some things that are going to be difficult to create a metric for, like let's say some organization comes and says they want to have a 10-week soccer league in the Southdale neighborhood, which could qualify for a grant like this. I mean, what's the tangible measurable thing other than the number of kids who play? So, but I still think that's important. It's good to know how many people are involved in these projects. So I don't know. I don't, because I'm also new to this committee, I don't know what things have been funded through the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative so far. So if we could maybe before the next meeting compile a list of all the things that we've done so far, how much money was spent on each one, how many people participated, I think that would be really helpful.
And I think just as a follow-up with that, though, I would expect some type of readout to council, and then at the same time, the same dollar amount, 50,000, is it not and I don't remember reading it in the budget, Jay, but isn't it generally if it's generally given to the H&I program every year? Would you agree? If it's in the mayor's budget. And it passed.
Yeah, it has been since 2019, and
right.
Then this year, just last night, we added an additional 15,000 just for use in the Southdale neighborhood.
Right.
Because that's a new neighborhood.
Right, and I remember I offered up that amendment, but that is correct. But generally, it's 50,000 every year, unless the mayor makes an adjustment and council approves or disapproves.
I mean, that's the way it's been the last 3 years. So, I mean, this program hasn't been around that long, so I hesitate to say this is the way it's always been because it's only been for 3 years.
Right. Okay. I don't know, does that answer your question, Ryan?
Yeah, that answers my question. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brad, I would also love clarity at the next meeting or at a future meeting as to the scope of this committee, because that founding document seemed to have a large scope. I guess that's more a question of like what Common Council is expecting out of this committee. So, yeah.
Thanks. Those are both good ideas for future meeting. I'll put those on the agenda for next time. Anything else? If not, then we can move on to the next item. Yes. So I'll share my screen again. Let's see. First, I have 4 items that I'll update everyone on here, starting with Neighborhood Navigators and the HNI grant program. And then I'll give an update on the Hub project. And then I guess I'll start with the Teen Center. There was a study that was done, that was completed a couple months ago. So that was in progress when this committee last met. And that is on our website for anybody that would like to look at it. So that's one of the items. And then I'll go into here, the Neighborhood Navigators and the HNI grant program. And then feel free to stop me as I'm going along if anybody has questions. So on Neighborhood Navigators, we have 1 navigator this year. We have worked with the county, since I was on board here to clarify the Neighborhood Navigators contract and the funding that we're getting from the county for that. We're expecting to continue. We're expecting to continue to receive funds for the Neighborhood Navigator program in 2023. And we also, Deanna and I met with Sun Prairie. They also have a Neighborhood Navigator program that has grown quite a bit since it started. So we met with them to kind of see, get their experiences. And so I think there was some potential there, some ideas on what we might be able to do here. So that was a good meeting. The Neighborhood Navigator, kind of the performance or metrics that we've had over the last year. Our Neighborhood Navigator has been supporting food pantries, offering translation services, attending health fairs and community events, assisted with the Town of Madison attachment, and we have, I think the number from the reporting so far in 2022 is 108 people served in those neighborhoods. Next on the HNI grant program.
Wait, can I have a question on, okay. Does this 1 Neighborhood Navigator that we have serve a particular neighborhood? Because I thought there were gonna be like 4 Neighborhood Navigators. They would each be assigned to a neighborhood.
We have funding for 2. Our 1 Neighborhood Navigator has been basically working all of those hours, and she's not tied to a specific neighborhood, so it's basically serving all the neighborhoods.
I have a question as well, Brad.
Yeah.
Regarding the Sun Prairie, their neighborhood navigator program, are those county funded as well?
Yes, but Sun Prairie's has grown outside of the county funding and now also has I can't remember the exact funding mix, but there's a little bit of city funding and some private community group funding as well.
Okay, and how many did they have? Just out of curiosity.
I want to say 6, but I can't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere around there.
Okay, I can look into it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can. That's another thing I can look into. I can get the exact numbers and report back or send you an email. All right. So on the H&I grant program, and we have talked about some of these a little bit already, but last year, or this year, we awarded $95,630 to 8 organizations. Deanna and I have done the mid-year check-in with all but 2 of the grantees. And next week, it sounds like we'll be sending out the annual reporting information. And as mentioned, 15,000, there was a budget amendment last night to increase the funding in the H&I grant program by $15,000 in the 2023 budget, specifically for the Southdale neighborhood, which has come in from the town of Madison. And so we have a total of $78,000 in grant funding for next year. And then any unclaimed funds from prior years if rollover is approved. It sounds like there isn't any of that available, but that's an option going forward. So those are those updates, and then I can share an update on the hub real quick.
Can you, wait, on that last screen, can you help me understand that one bullet point that you glossed over about one-time supplemental funding to be earmarked specifically for nonprofits? I'm just curious about the one-time thing because if Southdale is part of our program long-term, then yeah, help me understand this bullet point.
Randy or Jay, would you be able to go over that?
You're specifically speaking of the $15,000 that was awarded last evening through the amendment process?
I don't know. Is that what this bullet point is talking about?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of creating a structural deficit, it was, I offered up an amendment for a one-time $15,000 because it was coming from the well-being fund. And it would have to be looked at every year for that, in order for it to continue going forward.
Okay. Thank you for explaining.
And I will clarify too that the base amount of funding there is not, Southdale's not excluded from that. I think the intention probably of this $15,000 was because it was a new addition, so.
And the $15,000 is exclusive though to the Southdale area, nonprofit, yeah, which there are a number of them up in that particular area, so.
Okay, and on the hub project, many of you may have seen this image already. I think this is from February, kind of the conceptual site design. But this has been moving forward. The design, it's in the design development phase now. I think we've had 5 or 6 meetings amongst the consultants and staff mainly to talk about a lot of the design specifics, interior finishes, specific site layout. So it has changed a little bit since this image, but really the concept is still pretty much the same with the exception of the covered hard court, which has been removed. The hard court is still there, the multi-use hard court, but the covered structure has been removed from a previous council meeting, I believe, for budget reasons. So the hard court there is scaled down a little bit from this image, but pretty much everything else, at least in the current design of it, is still there. As I said, it's in the design development phase now. The consultant is working on some final touches, and then we're expecting to get an estimate soon on that, on the construction costs, and then it moves into the construction documents from there. And the expected timeline right now is going out for bid next year, spring of next year, and about a 1-year construction timeline for completion in spring of 2024. I don't think, there's just, this presentation has some concept images here, but none of these are specific pictures of the hub, but of the type of features that would be there. So in the building, had an outside gathering area there. And the timeline. So, yeah, any questions on the hub? All right. Oh, thanks, everyone. I think that covers all of the updates that I had. Yep.
Did I miss? Did you already talk about the Verona Road West Teen Center?
Oh,
You were going to talk about
yeah. So
it's on
the
website and
the update I had on that was that the study was completed and it's posted on our website now. So anybody can, if you want to read it, you can. I didn't have any specific updates on that process, but mainly just that the study, the engagement study was completed. So.
And so then what are the next steps?
I believe the phase 2, the next steps would be to probably release the RFP for that. But if somebody else has a
You are correct. You voted on last night. Well, part 2 is the design portion, if I remember correctly, and that's going forward, and the RFP will be going out soon, whatever that may be. And then the feasibility portion was voted down last evening. So that's part 3. That's not to say that it will not move forward. It's contingent upon the closure of a TID probably for first quarter of next year, and the mayor will reintroduce part 3 at that point in time to move it forward. Does that help answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that it for updates?
Yep.
Okay, next up is report from department. Is there anything in that section?
Yeah, so there's one more thing that I'll mention under this one, and that is that Deanna and I have started participating in something that's related to healthy neighborhoods, but it's not directly tied to this. It is the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy. So this is I just wanted to make the committee aware of this, that this is a region-wide effort to look at housing in kind of all aspects of housing in the county, looking at disparities, affordability, things like that, and really share resources amongst communities. I think there's a couple reasons for this. One is to share resources amongst communities of strategies that may work, and then I think the end goal for the county is to develop kind of a countywide strategy to improve housing availability and affordability and in the whole county. And I think it has had really strong participation from communities countywide. So looking forward to continuing to participate in this. I think it's about a 12 to 18 month process. And I'll probably be coming back with a few more updates to this committee about what's happening through that regional strategy initiative in the future, but just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And that's all I have. Deanna, did you have any other reports that you wanted to mention?
No, I think we're all good. It's great to see everyone tonight, and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Okay, up next is any announcements? Anything? No.
I have an announcement. There is going to be a cleanup of the Fitchburg / Leopold community on November 12th, 10 a.m. to noon. Everyone is invited, and if interested, I can send a flyer out to this committee. But definitely relevant to what we're doing here.
Thank
Sorry,
you
what
for
was the date on that?
cleanup.
Saturday, November 12th,
Thank you.
day after my birthday.
Any other announcements?
With that said, I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor? Aye.
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 All right. Motion carries. Close.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you all.